A major theme of this course has been in studying the impacts of technology on Homo sapiens as individuals and Homo sapiens as societies. And the most obvious place to start in this study of humanity and technology has been in the natural experiments of history. So by analysis, I mean historical analysis from the vantage of technology. So to summarize that, I learned how to better analyze the history of technology because of this course. Okay, to start, Ong's book, Orality and Literacy, from 1980, argues the case that writing is a technology. I mean, it makes sense, right? Not only do the tools of writing, such as papyrus or typewriters, your quills, your pens, your pencils, your tablets, they require complex social structures and technical know-how to create. But also the act of writing and reading themselves require the same thing. So you can't have literacy without a very complex, sort of convoluted society. In defining writing as a technology, what Ong does for us, educational technologists, is allow us to link together some very disparate technologies. So the same things I just said, papyrus, typewriters, etc. And this illuminates the context and consequences of these technologies on learning in the wider world. Sort of the underlying theme to Ong's work is that you have oral societies and you have literate societies, and the underlying social structures and psychology of these two worlds are completely different. I also read Marshall McLuhan's Gutenberg Galaxy, and like Ong, McLuhan speaks to the power of text technologies in shifting the psychology and sociology of our species. But whereas Ong focuses more on writing, McLuhan focuses on typography. And he says that typography actually created the blueprints for the Industrial Revolution. So pretty audacious move there by McLuhan. And continuing the theme of writing technology shifting our psychology, we have Bolter, who speaks to the shift from text-based conceptualizations of the world into a visual mode. So with Ong, McLuhan, and Bolter, you have the common historical analysis that technology really determines our psychology and our social structures. And then you have Chandler come along and say, well, technological determinism, there's a lot of faults with this kind of view. First of all, it just isn't historically valid to argue this. So that's a big problem. And then second of all, you have two related kind of problems. You have centrism. So Chandler speaks specifically about technocentrism, so focusing on technology and not considering the wider context. But you also have a kind of splitting the world into dichotomies, or the Great Divide, as Chandler calls it. And you see this with Ong when he divides the world into oral or pre-literate and then literate societies. And you see it again with McLuhan. You have writing-based and then you have typographic societies, and they're completely different. And again with Bolter. Now Chandler comes back and says, look, we can't say that technology determines everything. It's not the be-end and end-all. We shouldn't over-focus on it, and maybe splitting the world into, vastly different types of worlds is not the best approach. But what he does say is that technology itself does have specific impacts. It's just that those impacts are within a context. Now, the importance of context really came to the fore when I was researching for my documentary for this class on Gutenberg's printing press in a global context. So what I found out in my research about Gutenberg's printing press is that it didn't determine European history. It didn't determine world history, that's for sure. What happened was it reacted to a very specific context in Europe. And this context involved politics, it involved social movements, and it definitely involved economics. And these all aligned in a specific way in Europe, and the technology reacted with those aligned influences, that context. And whereas in other areas of the world, such as Korea and the Arab world, the context was different. So the reaction between the technology and that context was different than the experience in Europe. So here we have technological determinism refuted by historical reality. So to summarize, this course has had me read a lot of historical analysis from other authors, as well as it's had me analyze history on my own.